Prabhupada ki jai. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ityadritokta Paramasyu Pumsa. Pratikshana Nugraha Bhajanoham. Snehotaroma Skalitasharastam. Munchanchara Panjali Abhabase. Ityadritokta Paramasyu Pumsa. Pratikshana Nugraha Bhajanaham. Snehotaroma Skalitakshara Munchanchucha Panchali Abhabasi. Iti, thus. Ajita, being favored. Ukta, addressed. Paramasya, of the Supreme. Pumsa, personality of Godhead. Pratikshana, every moment. Anugraha Bhajana, object of favor. Aham, myself. Sneha, affection. Uta, eruption. Roma, hairs on the body. Skalita, slackened. Akshara, of the eyes. Tam, that. Munchan, smearing. Sucha, tears. Pranjali, with folded hands. Abhabase, said. Translation. Uddhava said, O Vidura, when I was thus favored at every moment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and addressed by him with great affection, my words failed in tears, and the hairs of my body erupted. After smearing my tears, I, with folded hands, spoke like this. Please repeat. Uddhava said, O Vidura, when I was thus favored at every moment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and addressed by him with great affection, my words failed in tears, and the hairs of my body erupted. After smearing my tears, I, with folded hands, spoke like this. So there's no purport to this verse, so we'll do the next verse. This is text 15. Translation, O my Lord, devotees who engage in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet have no difficulty in achieving anything within the realms of the four principles of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But, O Great One, as far as I am concerned, I have preferred only to engage in the loving service of your lotus feet. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Those who are associated with the Lord in the Vaikuntha planets achieve all the bodily features of the Lord, and appear to be the same as Lord Vishnu. Such liberation is called Surupya Mukti, which is one of the 5 kinds of liberation. The devotee engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord never accepts the Sayuja Mukti, or merging into the rays of the Lord, called the Brahmajyoti. The devotees can achieve not only liberation, but anything in the realms of religiosity, economic development, or sense gratification, up to the realm of the demigods in the heavenly planets. But such a pure devotee as Uddhava refuses to accept all such facilities. A pure devotee wants simply to engage in the service of the Lord and does not consider his own personal benefit. Uddhava said, O Vidura, when I was thus favored at every moment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and addressed by him with great affection, my words failed in tears, and the hairs on my body erupted. After smearing my tears, I with folded hands spoke like this. O my Lord, devotees who engage in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet have no difficulty in achieving anything within the realms of the four principles of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But, O Great One, as far as I am concerned, I have preferred only to engage in the loving service of your lotus feet. Om Jnanatimanandasya Gyananjanan Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So here we're reading Uddhava. He is explaining to Uddhava his last darshan with the Lord and his friend before the Lord closed up his own pastimes. So when it's actually a very tragic thing for a devotee when the Lord, especially these devotees who are personally associating with the Lord, when the Lord is winding up his pastimes. Here we see Uddhava, he has tears in his eyes, his body is erupted, he has all these ecstatic symptoms, and he's always in remembrance of the Lord. And we see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that we see in the pastime of Haridas Thakur, when Haridas Thakur, he's known as the Namacharya, the spiritual master of the holy name. He was always engaged in chanting. And because Haridas Thakur was so concentrated on the holy name, he actually knew the heart of Lord Chaitanya, and he knew that the Lord was actually going to, very soon he was going to wind up his pastimes in the world. So this was revealed to him by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And so Haridas Thakur, with great humility, one day he said to Lord Chaitanya, "My dear Lord, I have one desire. Please, I beg you, will you fulfill this desire?" And Lord Chaitanya asks him, "Well, what is it that you want, Haridas?" And Haridas says, "Well, my dear Lord, I know that you're going to be winding up your pastimes in this world soon, and I don't want to witness this. It's going to be too painful to bear. So please, can you fulfill my desire that I leave this world before you?" And Lord Chaitanya says, "My dear Haridas, well, you're very dear to me. How am I going to live without you?" And Haridas is very, very humble. Haridas says, "My dear Lord, if this world loses an ant, if an ant dies in this world, then what's the loss to this world?" And Haridas, he thought himself as being very low, and Lord Chaitanya said, "Okay, whatever the Lord desires." And the next morning, the Lord comes with his associates. They're coming to see Haridas Thakur. And on the way, Lord Chaitanya, he's glorifying Haridas Thakur, and he's glorifying him so much, like he has 5 mouths. And when they get to Haridas Thakur, the Lord says to Haridas Thakur, "How are you?" And Haridas is saying, "My Lord, whatever mercy you can bestow on me." So the Lord tells the devotees to start kirtan. And in that kirtan, we see Haridas Thakur, he takes the dust from the feet of all the Vaishnavas on his head, and he takes the feet of Lord Chaitanya and he puts it on his heart. And looking at the face of Lord Chaitanya, he leaves his body. So the devotees, after Lord Chaitanya actually left, his devotees, a lot of his followers, they left this world as well, because it was very, very painful for them to bear the separation of the Lord. And we also see with the Yadu dynasty, they're very powerful, and they're very, very fortunate because they always were associating with the Lord, and they were very, very attached to the Lord. But the Lord also knew that once he leaves the Yadus, they would go mad with separation. And in their madness of separation, because they're Kshatriyas, they may do all sorts of things. So this is something that the Lord didn't want. He wanted to take his associates with them. And it's described that the pastimes of the Lord and the Lord coming, it's like the rising and the setting of the sun. The Lord will come, he'll perform his pastimes, and then his pastimes will set in this world, and then he'll go on to perform his pastimes elsewhere. So here we have Uddhava, and Uddhava, Uddhava is actually the cousin brother of Lord Krishna. He's the son of Vasudev's brother, and he's very, very close to Krishna. He's very dear devotee and his friend as well. So Uddhava, from childhood, he was always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. From the age of 5, he used to play with dolls, and these were dolls of Krishna, and he used to feed them, he used to dress them, and he used to worship them. And in this way, he was constantly absorbed in the Lord's thoughts. Even when his mother called him to come and eat, he didn't want to, he just wanted to serve the Lord. And this devotion to the Lord, it stayed with him all throughout his life. And in the 10th canto, in the description of Uddhava, it's described how Uddhava, he's supremely intelligent. And he was also an advisor, and he was very much respected by everyone in the Yadu dynasty. Uddhava was the one who Krishna, he sent, as he knew the devotees of Vrindavan that were burning in separation, the fire of separation from him. So to pacify them, he wanted to send someone to help them. And so this person he sent was Uddhava. So Uddhava goes, and Uddhava, he is able, through his expertise, he is able to pacify Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda and the gopis. And he spends so much time with them as well. But also it was very beneficial for Uddhava too, because he got to see all the great love of the residents of Vrindavan, especially the love of the gopis. So in the separation of the Lord, one's always thinking of the Lord, and one is with the Lord as well in this thinking of separation. But it's very it is a very difficult thing. Like we can also experience in this material world when we're separated from someone, and especially when someone dies. It's a very, very painful thing that even people themselves, sometimes, like we see husbands and wives, they may have been together for many years and one of them dies. Then very, very soon afterwards, because the person cannot bear this separation, they will die also. Or if a parent loses a child, I mean, that the love for a parent for the child is such a strong love. And especially if a parent only has one child, then it happens as well that the child dies and the parent will die as well because they can't bear the separation. So this separation of the Lord is the highest form of devotional service. In the Brahma Samhita, there's a very beautiful verse. It's actually very much quoted, probably the most quoted verse by devotees, which describes how a devotee sees the Lord. And that verse, probably most devotees know it, it's Pramanjana Charita Bhakti Valochanena Shanta Hrideva Hridaya Vilokyanti Yat Shama Sundaram Achinta Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Brajami. That the devotee, he is always seeing the Lord with his eyes tinged with the salve of love. He sees the Lord in his heart of hearts. So with the progression of devotional service, of course, that is the ultimate stage, but one starts with faith in the Lord, and as one progresses, one has the seed of bhakti planted in his heart, and from this, it gets watered by the process of hearing and chanting. So this is the start of our devotional service, and we follow the path that's chalked out by our previous acharyas. So just like one has to have a strong building, you have to have a strong foundation. So when you see the construction workers out there, especially when they're building something like a hotel, I remember when I worked in Govinda's in Brisbane, very close by, were building this massive big hotel. But for months and months, it was surrounded by board, and you couldn't see anything, and it didn't seem like anything was happening. And it was like going on and on and on. And one day, some construction workers, they came in for breakfast, and I said to them, it doesn't seem like anything's happening here. You can't see anything. When's this hotel going to be finished? And he was smiling. He was saying, because I don't know anything about building, he said, well, we have to do this. We have to do the foundation. The foundation takes the longest, but once the foundation is done, the building will go up very, very fast. So it's like that in our spiritual life. We have to have a strong foundation, and the foundation is done through following the 9 processes of bhakti, through hearing and chanting. And once this foundation is developed, just like the seed of bhakti, once it's been watered, it grows into a plant and a creeper. And the creeper, through our advancement in devotional service, it grows bigger and bigger. And it says that this creeper, it actually penetrates Vaikuntha and also Goloka Vrindavan, and it goes to the lotus feet of Krishna, where its fruits fructify as well. So a devotee in devotional service, they always have to be endeavoring. In devotional service, there's 2 things that are very important. One's the endeavor of the devotee, and that other one is Krishna's mercy. When Krishna sees a devotee is endeavoring to know him, he will give his mercy. So in devotional service, it's not like we can perform devotional service in a lackadaisical way and expect to have a great result. It's not going to happen. We'll make progress, but it's going to be very slow. But to make real progress, is we have to follow the process given to us of chanting, following the principles, hearing, chanting, preaching. And by doing these, we can make great advancement, and ultimately we can make great advancement. And by making great advancement, like it says, Uddhava Sankhya, I have no interest in these things: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. And here, like in the purport, Srila Prabhupada's referring to liberation as merging into the body of the Supreme Lord, or merging into the rays of the Lord. So that's not what a devotee wants. And a devotee doesn't want these other things either. Of course, devotees also, through the progression of devotional service, they may go through their different stages. They may become grihastas, and they have to endeavor for economic development because they have to maintain their families. But at the same time, this is not the goal of their life, and they don't over-endeavor either. They do enough to maintain their family, and then the rest of the time they spend in their spiritual practices and sense gratification. And even in the 4 orders, the only order out of the brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas who is allowed some sense gratification is the grihastas. But even the sense gratification is done under strict rules and regulations too. For instance, even what is considered the greatest pleasure in this material world, which is the relationship between male and female and the sexual union. If a devotee wants to have this activity to produce a child, there's a process called Garbhadan Samskara, which is an act of sacrifice to the Lord, where the devotees, they chant 50 rounds, and they pray to the Lord to invite a great soul into their family. So when you chant 50 rounds, it purifies your consciousness very much. So like everything you're doing, the Vedic rules and regulations are done in such a way that one always remembers Krishna. There's that very nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which says, "Akama savakama va mukshakama adaradi trivyana bhakti yogana yajata purusham param." So a karma, if one has no material desires; sarva karma, if he's full of material desires; and muksha karma, if one is desiring liberation. One should, in any state, one must worship the personality of Godhead. So for the materialist, we see that this is the goal of their life, is this, especially economic development and sense gratification and liberation. And instead of crying tears for the love of Krishna, they cry tears because they're getting kicked by Maya. And Maya, she's very relentless. And when the living entity doesn't want to be in the service of the Lord, she kicks him. But still, in this condition, this living entity still thinks they're very happy, even though the sufferings are coming from the government, from even their own family members, from their work. There's many ways where suffering is coming, but a person is always trying to convince themselves that I can be happy they're here. And I was reading the other day, Prabhupada was saying, like, one man, he might engage in activities to get money, but these are illegal activities. So he's doing this for the enjoyment of his family. But when this person leaves their body, they're not taking the money with them, but they're taking the reaction with them. So they're going to have to suffer, and their family members, they'll suffer some reaction, but this person, he's endeavored so much, but all he will achieve from it is the suffering from the reactions. So service in separation, and thinking of the Lord, it's very important, and thinking of the Lord's devotees. Actually, there's one very nice story. I think it was Shyama Sundar Prabhu. I'm not 100% sure, but he was massaging Srila Prabhupada. And if you know about Srila Prabhupada's life, if you read Srila Prabhupada's pastimes, you know that in the first year that when Srila Prabhupada was in America, it was actually very, very hard for him. He had no money, he had no followers, and it was just a very hard year. Even in Vishaka Devi's book, she writes, Srila Prabhupada used to suffer from night starvation because he didn't have much to eat. So Srila Prabhupada, for this one year, it was very, very difficult for him. And after that, that's when followers started to come. So Shyamasundar Prabhu, he was massaging Srila Prabhupada, and he said, Srila Prabhupada, I really wish I was with you in that first year that you were in America, so I could have been there to help you. And you were all alone by yourself. Srila Prabhupada said, I was never alone. My spiritual master was always with me. So how great is this faith that when one is suffering, one has this faith that, I'm doing the right thing and my spiritual master is with me, Krishna is with me. And I was listening to a lecture of Srila Prabhupada, and he's talking about how devotee has to have full dependence of the Lord, and he's talking about a sannyasi. And he says that there's two qualities, there's two things that a sannyasi has to be free from, the two most important things. One is sex life, and the second thing is fear. And when he gives this up, then he can learn to be fully dependent on the mercy of the Lord. So pure devotional service is something we're all endeavoring for. And it's not very easy, but like in the Nectar of Devotion, when it's describing the characteristics of pure devotional service, it's telling us that pure devotional service is the only means to attract Krishna. And also, by pure devotional service, pure devotional service is very rarely achieved, because by pure devotional service, one can actually bring Krishna under one's control. We see this with Krishna's devotees. We see Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, how much love they have for the Lord, and Krishna's fully under their control. And the greatest love is the love of the gopis. and their love is so pure that even we see Uddhava's going to Vrindavan to give his message, and he can see everyone is always absorbed in Krishna, everything they're doing, remembering his pastimes, places they see, everything, the demons he killed. They're always talking about these, and they're always absorbed in this mood of separation. And Uddhava, when he's talking to the gopis, he sees Radharani, and Radharani, her love for the Lord is so strong that she's even talking to a bumblebee, and she's seeing this bumblebee as a messenger from Krishna. So her love is so intense. But to get to this platform, it's not something that we can artificially do. That's called being a sahaja. That means we're trying to be something that we're not. But we follow the process, and by the process, as the purification is getting more and more by our endeavor and by Krishna's mercy, we're able to give up our attraction to these lower things in the material world. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, as you develop a higher taste, you give up these lower things. So these things, even it's saying in the purport here, even the devotee, he's not so interested in the 5 kinds of liberation, having the same form of the Lord, the merging into the Lord, living on the same planet of the Lord. And the Sarupya Mukti and the Vaikuntha planets, we see that the Lord and the devotees of the Lord, they look like the Lord. They look very much like the Lord. The only difference it says that there is between the form of the Lord and the devotees there is the Lord, he has the Kashtuba Mani, the Kashtuba jewel he wears, and he has the Shrivatsa, the little white curly hair on his chest. Okay, sorry, I'm going to just finish there. Is there any comments or questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
You mentioned about that we should follow the 9 processes of bhakti, and also there is the sanction for devotees if they want a child, they do this purificatory process, Garbhadan Samskara. So sometimes we observe that even despite, for example, someone doing that ceremony, the children sometimes may not come out. Their focus is not spiritual life, and they just need to material life, getting themselves materially situated, and not so much interested in spiritual life. And someone may follow the process, but then develop a sense of superiority or the negative things. So then someone may say, "Oh, I've observed this, so why should I do this? I'd rather just not do it." So what would you say to someone who would say that I've observed that even though people are doing that, but not all of them, the outcome is what it's meant to be? What would you say to someone?
Well, I would say we're following the process, and everyone has their own desires and karma as well. So we attract a soul who would have been a devotee in their previous life, and how far they've got, we don't know. But and we try our best as parents, and we try everything to make them into devotees. But in the end, it's their own personal choice. But also there's many examples, even Advaitacharya, some of his children, they didn't take to the path of devotional service, even Srila Prabhupada's children as well. So we can just try our best, I mean, it's not guaranteed that, okay, that's it. That, we perform this and this is going to happen, that they're going to be a pure devotee. But a lot of times we see that children, they may go away from Krishna consciousness, but it's just under their skin as well. So that in the future they may come back as well, because they have that foundation. So we can only try our best, and then we can just pray to Krishna for the rest. We're doing what is right, and then ultimately we can't force anybody to do something which is against their own will as well. But what we've given them will always be there. And would anyone else like to add something?
What you're saying is that not to throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yes.
So we still do our part, but at the same time, everyone has free will and free choice whether to follow the proper way or not to.
Yes.
It's like nothing's perfect in the world, but that doesn't mean we don't take the right path.
No, we always have to do the right thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, you do everyone does their best with the tools that they have. And if Krishna doesn't seem to reply in the way that we would expect, we have to just accept whatever Krishna brings us as a benediction, as a blessing, and be thankful and keep trying.
Yes. Very nice points. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. All goes to Srila Prabhupada.